Now we come to number 12 in our series on God's Mission, My Mission. And this is Esther and Mordecai, interesting subjects for a discussion on mission. First of all, why were they there in Babylon in the first place? Their antecedents, their forefathers, really should have gone back with some of the Jews who returned to the homeland, bearing in mind that, of course, the majority did stay in Babylon, sadly. And then you have Esther, who's part of this beauty pageant, if I could call it that, and Mordecai using that opportunity and so on. And it's a peculiar book in some ways, because it is really to do with the vindication of the Jewish people rather than any attempt to evangelize. It's not really mission, is it? They were there in a rather hostile environment. They had been taken there as captives, or at least the people who came before them, and then the descendants were still there. And that kind of tells you about where you are in history. You shouldn't really always be where you're supposed to be. So let's just think about that in terms of mission. There's a Jewish saying on Purim, which was that feast that they celebrated the vindication of the Jews. Sometimes we know in this world, sometimes we know in the next world. Is that a kind of a justification? Whatever. And then what about Rabbi Noah Weinberg? People often avoid making decisions out of fear of making a mistake. Actually, the failure to make decisions is one of life's biggest mistakes. In fact, I would suggest that the big mistake was to have refused the opportunity to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild and develop the nation, and to just live your life in Babylon, which is not where they were supposed to be. They were supposed to go into exile, learn their lesson, and then go home again. And sometimes I think we need to learn our lessons too, don't we? About what we should be doing and why we are doing that. We're given also the material on Daniel, and that's a very different kind of perspective. He's taken into exile, yes, but he uses that as an opportunity to work with the king. He has, because of his prophetic understanding of the dream given to him by God, an ability then to work with Nebuchadnezzar. And I would love to have been a fly on the wall to hear their discussions. Did Daniel give Nebuchadnezzar a Bible study? Did he share with him the truth of the true God? Because as you see, it kind of oscillates backwards and forwards. Daniel tells the king something, he says, okay, and then he kind of reverts back a bit, and then there's another experience, and he says, yes, you're right. This is the true God. I think Daniel's a much better representative of doing mission in a very different kind of place than is Esther and Mordecai. But at least you can say they remain true to what they understood to be the principles and so on of their particular faith. Whether God was involved, that's another question. I'm sure he was, but God is not mentioned in the book of Esther. He doesn't tell Esther or Mordecai what to do. They pray, they do what they think they should. Was that a great mission experience? I don't see that the Babylonians were converted. I don't see anything more than kind of a vindication of their own people. We don't have any record of Esther sitting down with the king and giving him Bible studies or anything like that. And all this really is about the self-preservation of the people. So let's consider that and think about, how do we best represent God? Because I always want to be talking about God, and I'm disappointed that we're not really doing that here in this particular study. Yes, God is looking to protect his people. Yes, he wants to continue the line. This is the line that the Savior comes through and all the rest of it. But ultimately, what did it do for the king and the other Babylonians? There's a question for us to ponder, especially when we think about our role in mission.